How's it going, people? I'm Zephyros, and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a hero spotlight on Ne Zha. Um, I finally had a good summoning experience on a banner. It's been so long, but I pulled I think about 720 blues and 22 divines, and managed to get 4 copies, so got him to a 3. Now that's obviously a lot of summons, but trust me when I tell you, compared to some of my other banners, for me, I consider this good luck, right? So yeah, I'm really pleased, and it does mean that I can actually go over the kit with you guys and talk about where I think Ne Zha is going to shine. So with that all being said, let's get into it. So let's get started by looking at Ne Zha's base stats. Okay. So the first thing to note, right? Ne Zha is a little bit squishy. The HP pool is a lot lower than like your Valdron is like 29. Ardea is 27k. Um, Kagiri 26, 28. So your typical fighters, they're normally kind of between your 25 and 30k mark. Ne Zha is obviously a lot lower than that. So just be aware of that when you've got like um, stages where a lot of damage kind of gets piled onto ground units. Ne Zha will need to be built much tankier to kind of survive the hit. It's just worth noting. The attack for a fighter, especially kind of the newer fighters, it's low as the base stats, but there is a reason for why it's low. So, and I will go into that in a moment. But when you compare it as a base level, if you look at like your Valdron pushing on 7k there, Kagiri 6.7k, again Wukong 6.7. Obviously, you got the monster of Ardea who's 8.2. So it looks like on paper there it looks low. But the reason it needs to be low like that is because Ne Zha actually ramps up his own attack with his skills and his passive. So that's why it doesn't really impact him, and he's able to put out crazy damage numbers, right? In terms of his other base stats, his attack interval is 2.6. So this is pretty standard for what you'd consider like a single target damage dealer. Um, but again, within his kit, he actually increases or reduces his attack interval as well. So he gets faster. So yeah, let's look into his actual skills now. So looking at his talent to start with, Ne Zha uses 3 weapons. So you've got the fire tip spear, which is like single target damage, um, and it allows kind of combos when he's in his ultimate. Then you've got the universe ring. The universe ring is basically it makes him a bit more AoE. He's able to do damage to more units if there are more units within his range. Then you've got the yin yang blade. So this basically deals 200% single target damage, and then it kind of spreads it to 5 enemies if there are 5 enemies. But if there is only one enemy, it just doubles that to 400%. So Ne Zha is good when you've got a boss or when you've got waves, right? Really important. It makes him actually a very versatile hero. Now, each time he alternates between these weapons, depending on if there are other mobs and stuff around, he'll gain 10% damage for 10 seconds, and this can stack up to 3 times, so you can get a total of 30% damage increase. Significant amount, right? During the ultimate, basic attack has a 35% chance to use his yin yang blade, which is just that extra hit again. And during the ultimate, the talent's damage increase effect is doubled. So where this could go up to 30%, you can now get 60% extra damage. Huge scaling right there. And then we'll look at his basic. So when there's only one enemy within attack range, uses fire tip. Otherwise, uses universe. So this is the thing of he kind of adapts according to how many enemies are in front of him. Then first passive, unlimited arsenal. When switching between different weapons to attack, increases the damage multiplier of that basic attack by 90% and triggers arm enhancement. So if it's a single target hit, he's just ignoring 50% defense, which is crazy, right? He's just slapping so hard because he's ignoring that defense, which is also one of the reasons why the attack doesn't need to be as high for him. He's just because when you do the damage calculation, it's the defense of your opponent minus your attack, right? Or the other way around. So if you're just taking 50% of that defense away, you're scaling your damage massively, right? And then obviously, if it's the AoE attack instead, it just allows it to bounce an extra time, and it can hit the same target multiple times as well. He's also got an execute built within his kit. So anyone who goes below 30% health, he's just executing them, which is crazy because this doesn't have a count. This doesn't have like a duration buff like where it's saying it can happen every 5 seconds. This is just if he takes them below 30%, he's just killing them, which is insane for places like Gear Aid 1, right? Also very useful in GVG if you've got like the smaller mobs that are classed as common heroes. And then finally, Godslayer's Wrath. When the hero kills an enemy, reduces the attack interval there. So um, this is what I was saying by you'll be able to shorten the attack interval for 10 seconds by 5%, stacking to 5%. So this is 25% of reduction, basically a quarter of your attack interval. You're just taking it off, which is significant, right? And then during the ultimate, each kill extends the ultimate's duration by 2 seconds up to 10 seconds. So this passive basically just means you're ramping up your damage, hitting quicker, and you're in your ultimate for longer, again, dealing much more damage. So then when we look at the actual ultimate, when activated, increases attack by 60%. So massive, massive boost. Because remember, you can also, in the ultimate, you're also able to increase the damage by 60% as well as attack by 60%. Increases the attack range. So just worth noting, the normal attack range is it's a unique attack range to Ne Zha at the moment of just a 3x3 as a fighter. And then when he's in his ultimate, he goes into almost like this single target piercer kind of range, which is a really, really good range for a fighter. And so yeah, expands it to that kind of range, and then able to place burning and also stun enemies. Ne Zha, if you get awakenings, Ne Zha puts slows down and throws stuns out. Incredible, incredible CC unit, right? As well as putting out absurd damage. Able to CC damage with a great range as a fighter. There's a reason so many people have been kind of clamoring to try and get Ne Zha because he's a solid, solid unit, right? When the ultimate ends, deals up to 300% AoE damage, up to 10 enemy targets in range, and so just basically does like it's almost like a bomb at the end, right? As if Ne Zha doesn't do enough damage already. And then if you do manage to pull Erlang Shen, who is actually coming tomorrow, um, then you can unlock this skill as well. So during the ultimate, becomes immune to all debuffs, and basic attack restores 5% max HP. So it's nothing broken, but it just gives Ne Zha a bit of extra survivability. And especially because Ne Zha's quite squishy, this is always a good thing, right? So yeah, that is Ne Zha's kit. So now how have I built my Ne Zha? Right, worth noting, right? This is very, very, very good gear. This is your gear does not need to be at this kind of level. But I've put Ne Zha in a Cataclysm with a Watchguard exclusive because Ne Zha is Watchguard and Esotericist. So if you've got an ESO ring or if you've got a Watcher ring Cataclysm, great, put it on. Otherwise, Soulbound Arcana, you can't go wrong. SA, because the ultimate is not that expensive, 800, especially as an ESO unit as well, where Ne Zha will be going through ultimates a lot quicker if he's got an ESO Lord with him. You can obviously ramp up your SA stacks really quickly. So yeah, let's look at the awakenings now. So A1, just put slow. When you're doing these hits and you're attacking, and it bounces 2 times, but it bounce an additional with passive as well. You're just putting 75% slow. This is the big slow, right? Massive, massive slows on these units. So really good on the A1. A2 is pretty straightforward, pretty standard, just adding a bit of extra attack. A3, this A3 is amazing for certain places. So during the ultimate, every 4 attacks, the hero deals an additional 200% true damage to up to 8 enemies within the ultimate range. So that single target piercer, kind of 4x3 range. Whilst the mark is active, inflicts a mark on them that lasts for 10 seconds. Whilst the mark is active, direct damage dealt by the hero inflicts an extra 10% true damage. So just slamming extra damage on top of the existing damage, and then each enemy can only be marked 1 time per battle. So this is obviously not for boss battles. You're not going to use this in any big bosses because it's only going to be 10%, 10 seconds of the fight, right? It can't be reapplied. This is more for waves. So in GVG, in Gear Raid 1, those kind of places, that's where you're going to really use this A3. Um, then the A4, just it's pretty standard again, increased penetration, just means he'll hit harder. The A5, upon death, triggers Lotus Rebirth, which is basically after 8 seconds, Ne Zha will just revive. When when Ne Zha drops, Ne Zha is just going to do a knockback, knocking them back, inflicting burn, and slowing them by 75%. So if they've managed to breach your tank, say in guild versus guild, right? If they've managed to breach your tank, Ne Zha's going to drop, push them all back so that they hit your tank again, and then 8 seconds later, Ne Zha is back up, right? This is crazy, crazy good for a GVG, right? Because say for example, you've put Ne Zha behind a tank. One of the easiest ways to get rid of a DPS unit that is behind a tank is to use the legendary mages who do the AoE slam, like AoE kind of hit. But Ne Zha doesn't revive straight away. So they're going to kill Ne Zha, but in within 8 seconds, you would expect your other DPS units to have taken down those legendary mages. And 8 seconds later, Ne Zha is just getting right back up again, which means the next units that are going to get sent after these mages, Ne Zha is back, doing CC, doing damage. Crazy, crazy A5. Really, really viable for guild versus guild. Not so viable for any other places, if I'm honest. There's not many other places where you're going to use that, but for GVG, yeah, that's going to be a really, really, really good awakening. So yeah, that's Ne Zha. The places where I think Ne Zha is really going to shine, Malric's Halls of Illusions. I'm going to have a look at some of these and see whether it's viable to put Ne Zha in. And I'll probably record it after this actually, if I get the time, and put out a video on that. Um, so yeah, Malrix, I think Ne Zha's got so much viability. Gear Raid 1, yeah, Ne Zha's going to be crazy good behind the wall. If you've got a Valara and a Ne Zha, it's just a piece of cake, right? Or an Ingrid and a Ne Zha, it's just going to make things so much easier. Um, yeah, obviously, like your faction trials, Gear Raid 2, you could use Ne Zha on one side. You could. Do I think you need to? No. It would be harder to keep Ne Zha alive through the big slams of the Gear Raid 2 boss of the Golem when the Golem does the shriek. But I do think you'd be able to. Gear Raid 3, obviously, no. Gear Raid 1, Gear Raid 2, yeah. The AoE in Gear Raid in Gear Dungeon 2, sorry. For the melee phase, yeah, you could use Ne Zha. Gear Dungeon 1, yeah, you could. I think there are better units with the longer range. Even like your Valkyra or your Lubu or your Ardea, I think that they obviously have better use. But yeah, definitely viable for all of those. And then like artifact material raid, yeah, going to be great. Immortal Codex, yeah, I do think there are going to be some, like even the Conquerors Codex, I think would be viable for that. Obviously your promotion raids, resource raids, yes, you can, but you don't. They're not exactly a struggle. But yeah, all in all, Ne Zha is just a phenomenal, phenomenal hero. So I really hope you guys do manage to pull him. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to put out some content on some runs showing how good Ne Zha actually is in that content. So until then, I'll catch you guys soon. Stay blessed.